Um, are there any other questions, or Zanella, do you want to take? I think mid-level to executive, right? So I'm also not in C-suite yet, but I can talk to what that's the next level, right? Now being a senior manager and trying to translate into C-suite. Um, Perhaps I'll talk to 2 or 3 points that I think is important, right? Given what I do now and what I've also interacted with, my mentors and sponsors. And I'll say quickly, I think at this level, you already have demonstrated, a certain level of technical abilities, and people understand your personality, right? So you built relationships and you've gained trust of your colleagues. How do you take that to another level? I think there are 3 things. For me, you need to pick your battles, right? You can't be everything to everybody. You can't inspire everybody. I think there are very few people that there are people that are inspirational leaders, right? That are everything to everybody, or everybody can tap into, right? But I guess those are the folks that write books, right? or and all. But you have to pick your battles. Sometimes you need to let someone win, as far as your it's not fundamentally different from your core values. So you need to know your core values and then pick your battles, right? If it's something that doesn't go against your core values, but it means a lot to the other party, you can let it be, right? Because that way you build additional trust with that person, and that person will bat for you, right? When you want to go into CC. I think you need to be able to say no, right? What I see a lot is, people take on a lot, right? And they feel that, it's actually a great thing to always say yes, right? But from my perspective, there's a gift, there's the gift of saying no. Like, saying no is a gift, right? Because one, people have actually identified that you're the go-to person that can actually deliver value in this particular task, and they've come to you, right? But because they put the trust and they've identified you as that person, doesn't mean that you have more than 24 hours in the day to deliver according to the standards that you've been known to deliver on, right? So being able to say no is actually a gift. You need to prioritize, take care of yourself, take care of your team, and say no when you know that you cannot actually deliver to the standards you hold yourself. And then you also know your priorities, right? You're not going to say no to a big pitch, right? If you think you're the right person to fly up to, say, Abuja to make a pitch to the president or the vice president around, financing or Nigeria's budget and how you can make sure that Nigeria's debt capacity is better, right? But you can say no to something else that you feel, okay, I'm not the right person for this, or I don't just have the time for it, right? So I think there's a gift of saying no. We all have finite amount of time, and then we want to do a lot with our time. You need to be able to prioritize. I've seen that in several C-suite executive, because everyone wants to get into your calendar, but you need to prioritize. I think one last thing I'll point to is just a few words and the way you interact, right? And one that has actually resonated with me is, saying yes, saying, I haven't got to it yet. Just adding that yet, not just saying I haven't got to it, I'll get to it when I get to it, right? So the way you actually interact with people would be able to see that this guy actually gets it. He sees the big picture. He's thinking strategically, and he knows the importance of the acts, right? So whether you say no or you say I haven't got to it, by including yet, you're also saying I would get to it because I know it's important, right? So those are just things that I constantly think about, right? Because being in banking for 10 years now, you want to get to C-suite, and just interacting and watching people in C-suite and how they interact, and the kind of words and they use. I think those are key things I've seen, and I'm deliberate and intentional in imbibing them. Zanele?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I mean, similar to you, can't speak to sort of current experiences in C-suite, but definitely, I think we're aligned, CJ, in terms of our observations. Mine have been both in terms of the institutions, in terms of having relationships with those in the C-suite, both in my organization now, but even the person who was my director at Goldman now is actually very senior in that institution as well, and sort of being able to see how he acts and sort of how his trajectories look like professionally has been very interesting for me. And I have similar observations. Also, my husband, he's no longer it, but at some point he was a chief of staff for one of the largest banks in the region I'm in now, and so he interacted a lot with the group CEO of large banking institutions. And his observations are also interestingly aligned with mine, which is number one, definitely the ability to demonstrate and deliver on value. And we all know this. It's probably actually a bit of a nebulous point to make, but really you're as good as your deal book, right? At that level, and particularly in banking, it's sort of the deals that you've worked on, what you've brought to the bank, what you've brought to the institution, but what also your ability to bring in more business. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. And so I think the big emphasis would be that just the ability, talking, being able to promise and deliver on the deal flow, but also the quality of the network itself. And we know that's very important, right? Just the quality and the depth of the network, and that kind of speaks to the ability to bring in the big deals, which is ultimately within a banking institution what's most important. So I agree with that. The second one, where I think is also important, is sort of the ability to rally and converge people on critical points, right? Because that's really what distinguishes you from every other at that level, certainly in terms of the ability to crowd in opinions, decisions, and then move things forward strategically to where they need to be. And I think very few people have that. And I certainly in IFC, there's one person I've identified who I personally am in awe of, because as I watch this person in motion, I'm just floored by the person's ability to sort of hit all the touch points, relate to everyone that he needs to relate to, bring everyone around points that are critical, controversial, but critical to the institution, and do that with a smiling face. And I have no doubt that on this person, my colleague's future, very near future, is a consideration for C-suite or IFC's equivalent of it, simply because he's so good at doing that. And I think really it's a skill that maybe is a natural one, but I also think it's one that can grow. Once you understand the importance of what are the key issues, who do I need to involve to settle this issue, and how do I move this forward? I think once you're able to sort of triangulate those key issues and then sort of in a very visible, productive way, put that into action, I think it's a fantastic skill set. And I think, we could all work towards that if most of us, and I'm assuming most of us do have those ambitions to get to C-suite one day. And then the third thing, again, is just to agree with you, CJ, on the ability to discern what's critical and what's not critical. And again, coming from my husband's experience of, supporting a very busy group CEO and a couple of MDs of this large banking institution, where within a day there were 6 or 7 issues that needed to be addressed. Everything from credit to marketing. So how do we position the institution? Are we getting the right sort of visibility? Is it good visibility? Is it bad visibility? How do we, position ourselves better within the market? To employee issues, so HR, human resources issues. And so all those issues within a day are completely overwhelming, I think, if you don't have the necessary support, but also just in terms of your aptitude as a person to deal with that. So I think the ability to discern what's important, what can be delegated, and what can be completely sort of sidelined as an issue. I mean, ultimately, most things are not issues. Some things are non-issues, but are, for some reason, have gained enough traction to warrant attention at that level. And just the ability to then discern and work through those. And granted, a lot of the time, it's not the actual MD who's making those decisions. It's usually the chief of staff, the layer underneath the person. But actually, that's one of the importance of the C-suite, the ability to distill what's important for discussion at the ultimate, at sort of the highest level in the institution, I think is really important. So really, to round out, it's really just, CJ, you made the points clear. I'm just supporting them. It's just the ability to deliver value, the ability to converge people on critical issues, and then the ability to discern what's important to the institution and what's not. I think those 3 issues, once you have mastered them, would position you very well for consideration for that level of appointment.
Thank you, Zenile. Yeah, I think that second point, right? I think it's one that actually resonates, right? Because as you're speaking to the gentleman in your organization that is able to build consensus, right? Some names in my organization rang through, right? Because they're just able to, you think they're magicians. They're just able to get things done and get people to agree that, in the end, I heard you, but we all made this decision together, and we thought it was the right decision. So I think that's key. I'm not sure if there are other questions.
I think there's one. You have highlighted skills that are necessary to position yourself within a company to stand out and thrive, such as working diligently, delivering networking, speaking up, discerning. Are there any additional skills that you think will be useful in the next 5 years for someone who's just starting out? It's a great question.
Yeah.
You want to take
You want to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so go for it. Obviously you're just starting out, right? So, as in banking, we say it's up or out, right? So if you're going to be there in 5 years, it means you're in, right? So I think what's most important is, I think there are three things I'll say, right? Obviously you have to do the hard work, right? But in addition to doing the hard work, you need to be deeply invested in the business, and it needs to come through, right? So people need to see you as someone that acts like an owner or acts like a shareholder. So be deeply be deeply invested in the business. Follow your gut, right? Most times you're right? Just follow your gut. Make those recommendations. Give those thoughts, ideas. Sometimes you assume that you're the most junior in the room, but senior management might not have thought of it, right? Or might not have thought that angle. Or by just following your gut and making a point, it's not necessarily right, but managers and your superiors can pick that up and fine tune it, right? And it's the base of actually something great. So I think, as a junior, be deeply invested in the business, follow your gut, and also pace yourself. I see, people work, but you need to listen to your body, right? And listen to, not everybody, is the same, right? So you might be a morning person, you might be an evening person, an afternoon person. As a junior, you don't have that luxury of being a morning or afternoon or evening person, right? But what I try to tell my subordinates is that you pace yourself, right? And when you pace yourself and you listen to your body, you will be able to communicate better to your managers, right? Because if your managers know that you're a morning person and they've seen that in the morning you actually do great work, right? If they let you be for 4 or 5 hours, I'll tell you, your managers will walk around that because they want great work. We all want great work, right? If I know that I one doesn't let you sleep for 2 days and the quality of work it's bad, right? If you've communicated with confidence what you rather do and they've seen value in that, then I think you need to actually be able to communicate. So I think deeply invested, follow your gut, and communicate. I think are great things that have come to mind.